So I'll start. My name is Diana Campbell and I'm Mi'kmaq from Indian Brook First Nation. I have a master's degree in resource and environmental management from Dal. Graduated in 2010 and I'm in thesis proposal stage for PhD, looking at the environmental health impacts of the pulp and paper mill on Pictou Landing First Nation. And so I'm very involved in these sort of issues. So the position papers that I'm interested in looking at are the health, the social and community, and the environmental paper. The presentation that I'm going to make today concerns the health paper that was just recently released. Preparing a considered and well-researched position for the Assembly of Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq Chiefs on the health, social and community, and environmental impacts of hydraulic fracturing on First Nations in this province is impossible without adequate support and resources to do so. There are experts within our organizations that are very capable of carrying out this work. However, the demands on time and competing pressures of our jobs allow for little dedicated time to devote to the efforts required by the Assembly of Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq Chiefs to put together a well-informed position on hydraulic fracturing on behalf of the Mi'kmaq of this province. The Chiefs are adamant that it will be our own experts in the fields of environment, engineering, or the physical sciences who will lead the development of a position on our behalf. I would like to summarize just a few issues that warrant further consideration to fully understand the impact of hydraulic fracturing on our communities. The first area I would like to address is health. In terms of the definition of health, the World Health Organization defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. This is the definition that is used by Dr. Frank Atherton in the development of the Fracking Review Process discussion paper on health. According to the Public Health Agency of Canada, analysis of population health extends beyond mental, physical, and social well-being to include indicators which measure quality of life, life satisfaction, income, education, employment, and working conditions. However, the National Aboriginal Health Organization defines health as the balance between the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual realms, as well as the environment, culture, family, and community, and that well-being flows from the balance and harmony amongst all elements of personal and collective life. This definition goes well beyond the World Health Organization and Public Health Agency of Canada definitions. The chief funding agency for health research in this country recognizes, broadly supports, and limits funding to research that embraces the National Aboriginal Health Organization definition of health and the guiding principles of two-eyed seeing for Indigenous health research. Cape Breton University is the pedagogical home of the concept of two-eyed seeing, an approach that melds both Indigenous and Western science, where Mi'kmaq and Western ways are respected and given equal consideration. In fact, the concept of two-eyed seeing has been the founding principle of the Bachelor of Science Community Studies Integrative Science program at CBU since the 1990s, as Albert mentioned. Recently, CBU announced that it continues to build on its strength in Aboriginal education by expanding the Community Studies program outside of Nova Scotia and trumpets this program for its success in graduating over 500 Aboriginal students over the past 35 years. Certainly, CBU, the institution that supported the articulation of the concept that reflects the Mi'kmaq worldview, embedded in the two-eyed seeing approach, understands their responsibility to support the Mi'kmaq in looking at the health impacts of hydraulic fracturing through this lens. Two-eyed seeing has developed to become a guiding principle for Indigenous health research across Canada. Most notably, the Canadian Institutes of Health Research, Institute of Aboriginal People's Health, Their overall goal is to foster research based on this concept. CIHR has embraced two-eyed seeing as the pathway to successful research that will integrate both Indigenous and Western ways of knowing. According to the National Collaborating Centre for Aboriginal Health, there are significant health disparities between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal Canadians, resulting from centuries of social, economic, political, and cultural inequities and marginalization. Respiratory problems such as asthma are of particular concern to the Mi'kmaq. According to studies released by the Mi'kmaq Health Research Group, for example, asthma rates have been increasing over the past decade, with asthma rates for Mi'kmaq children at 13% compared to 9% for other Canadian children. Mental health and wellness issues resulting from socioeconomic marginalization and loss of self-esteem, or resulting from the erosion of the ability to carry on cultural practices, is likewise well documented in the literature. Mi'kmaq depend on country foods to supplement their diets. A decline in the consumption of traditional foods is linked to fears about consuming environmental contaminants in food, although we understand the protective factors inherent in traditional diets to one's health. An increasing reliance on diets high in sugars and carbohydrates has had devastating impacts on Aboriginal populations, most notably on the high incidence of diabetes in our communities. Again, according to the Mi'kmaq Health Research Group, 20% of Mi'kmaq men and women report having been diagnosed with diabetes compared to 6% for other Nova Scotians. Understanding the impacts of hydraulic fracturing on the continued availability or consumption of traditional foods and ensuring our communities understand the potential pathways for environmental contaminants from the fracking process into the food chain is critical before an informed opinion can be provided. Broad statements in the health discussion paper, such as the development of unconventional gas and oil in Nova Scotia has the potential to benefit the health experience and outcomes of the population through improved economic circumstances and energy security, are unhelpful, especially when so little is known or understood about the impacts of hydraulic fracturing on health generally. Without time to adequately consider the health impacts, and recognizing that the literature on the health impacts of hydraulic fracturing is still evolving, it is inconceivable to think that the Mi'kmaq would be able to provide input into the fracking review process without adequate support. The social and community impacts of hydraulic fracturing position paper, slated to be released yesterday. I checked the website, it wasn't on it today.
It's pending today or Tuesday.
Okay. And the environmental impacts of hydraulic fracturing position paper, slated for release on Friday, must be taken into consideration in our review. The timing of the release of these reports in our meeting today has not provided adequate time to incorporate our concerns into this presentation. Slowly.